Hey, we back. I'm here in real life once again. We're talking about another random collection. This is one I just kind of did on the spur of the moment. Hey, I did films. Let's go through books. My book collection is not nearly as impressive or cool as my film collection, which is why I wasn't planning on going over it. I used to read a lot of books, and this size bookshelf does not imply the reading of that many books. I mean, it's a reasonable size bookshelf, but there's two things to note. Firstly, tell you what, used to be a lot bigger. I used to have actually a lot more books than this, but my siblings have stolen most of them. I, in fact, used to have a lot of knickknacks on my bookshelves, but I believe my sister's stolen them all, so clearly I'll have to do something about that at some point. But anyway, the other thing is because most of my books I got out the library, but it's safe to say that probably most of my favourite books are here, because naturally the ones that I like the most I probably will have bought. There's only a couple of exceptions to that. There's a few that I can remember well that I maybe would like to buy at some point, but I don't really read anymore, so I probably wouldn't read them even if I did buy them, and for that reason probably won't be buying them. We're going to do the same thing as the DVDs. I'm just going to go over which books I have and what I thought of them, and hey, maybe there's some books here that you don't know about that I can recommend to you guys, or might just be cool. We'll see what happens. I will quickly apologise if the lighting isn't too great. It looks alright to me, but I've not actually set up my light for this one because I'm using the stand for my camera, so hopefully should be no camera shake and all that, because I've got the camera on the stand, but no light this time. Anyway, with books, the advantage of books having a bit of a larger spine than DVDs, we can pretty safely see what they are without having to take them off the shelf. So hopefully this will be a bit faster video than the DVD one, aside from the fact there are just less of them. But we'll start on the top left and we'll work our way down. I'm also not going to talk about every book, because if we take the first example here, which I will take off the shelf because it's a pretty thin one, this is Aesop's Fables, which is, as you can see, very old and beat up. It's not originally mine. This used to belong to my mum, maybe my grandma, something like that, and I've not read it because the books that are here that I did not go out and buy myself, funnily enough, are not the ones that I like so much. So there are a couple like this. I'm just going to skip over them. With that being said, we have first Skellig and My Name is Mina. These are books that I wouldn't expect people to have heard of. I heard about them because I studied Skellig in school in English when I was about 11 or 12. My Name is Mina is a prequel. It was written afterwards, so it is a proper prequel, but I read that afterwards. I went and got both of them because they are pretty good books. I suppose they're about the relationship between a boy and a random angel or something that appears that eats Chinese food. It's a little weird, but they are good books. Figured I might as well move the camera in a bit closer. Moving on here, we have the Secret series, which is a series of 5 books. There was also Bad Magic at the end there, which is not the same series, but it's by the same author, the author being Pseudonymous Bosch. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but there you go. And these are great books. You can tell by the titles that they're just great books. So we've got the first one, the name of this book is Secret. Then if you're reading this, it's too late. This book is not good for you. This isn't what it looks like, and you have to stop this, which are just fantastic books, really. They do break the fourth wall a little bit. I do recall some chapters where it's supposedly the author of the book speaking himself, which is wonderful. So I do like a good bit of that, but other than that, it's kind of what you imagine, I guess. If you can imagine anything from those titles, it's books about some kind of secret society. I believe there's some magic involved, some alchemy, stuff like that, so it's kind of cool. Stuff like that is pretty good. Next we have Jennings. Jennings is pretty old at this point. I think it's a lot more popular than the books we've gone over so far, but probably with the generation above me. I know about Jennings because my mum told me about Jennings. You can see the 3 books that I have there. We have Jennings Goes to School, According to Jennings, and Jennings Follows a Clue. You may notice that Jennings Follows a Clue is a bit beat up. It's a much older book, as you can tell when I just get it out there. The cover is completely falling off, but I mean, hey, it's hardback, so that's cool. So yeah, these are pretty old books, but they are very funny, or at least they were when I read them, which was many years ago now, but they were very funny. Jennings is a boy at private school, I believe, and he just gets up to a whole lot of absolute mischief, to the dismay of the stereotypical private school teachers, as to be fair, you can probably guess from the front of that book. I would have to say, in terms of humour, at least at the time that I read them, these were by far my favourite books, which is fantastic. Probably not my favourite books overall, but in terms of humour, definitely my favourite books. Then we have good old Hunger Games there. I've got all 3 books of the same edition, which is very nice. I like collecting books of the same editions. You may notice this as we go through these books. I've mostly got them all in the same edition, which is wonderful. And I might add, mostly in pretty good condition. I mean, yeah, Jennings Follows a Clue is a bit beat up, but that's a 40-year-old book. Come on, cut me a break. Anyway, we got the 3 Hunger Games here in their nice shiny covers. The Hunger Games 1 is probably the book I've read the most, and that is because, again, it's a book that I studied at school. When I was around 13, I think, we had to read the Hunger Games in school, and I ended up reading it some 15 times, which is very dumb. I will say I didn't enjoy reading it 15 times. It's a fine book, but once you've read it 15 times in the space of 2 months, it gets a bit old. But that's just how it worked at my school. I guess I ended up reading it that many times. It is a good book, absolutely. I did really like it. I am probably never going to read it again, just because I read it so much when I was younger. But yeah, it's fine. The second and third book, in my opinion, aren't as good. I think probably most people agree with that. But yeah, it's a fine book. Would recommend reading it. The film is reasonably true to the books, at least the first one is anyway. I can't remember the other 2 so well. But obviously there are some differences, and to be honest, I would say the book probably better, so there you go. Of course, everyone's heard of the Hunger Games, though. We've got a collection of Roald Dahl stories there. Roald Dahl obviously known for writing children's books, and while a lot of the books on these shelves may be for children, this particular one here, which is the Great Automatic Grammatator, I believe it says, and other stories, is more of an adult one, which is cool, I suppose. And then there's a couple of others there, being the Gobblefunk Dictionary and Spotty Powder and the Splendiferous Secrets. All of these books are probably one of the least well-known ones of Roald Dahl. Obviously, Roald Dahl wrote so many well-known books, and the ones that I have are not those books. But it's mainly because you kind of end up knowing the stories to those books, regardless of whether you have them, whether you've read them, because most of them have been televised by now as well. So it is kind of cool to own some of the less well-known ones, but yeah, at the end of the day, everyone knows about Roald Dahl, and these are not books that I've read in a long time, not ones that I can comment on much past that, really. Then we have the Maze Runner books, including the prequel, The Kill Order. I read all of these a couple of times. I didn't enjoy them as much as I think other people did. They are obviously very well known, same as the Hunger Games. Everyone knows the Maze Runners, but yeah, I prefer the Hunger Games, and they are very similar books. Of course, there's the films out for these as well, and again, the books are much better. With the Hunger Games, I would say it's debatable, but with the Maze Runner, definitely the books are better. Have a look at the books if you're interested, but yeah, similar to the Hunger Games, and I expect everyone to know these anyway. Then we have The Pirates in an Adventure with Scientists. This is one that we mentioned when I went through my DVD collection, because I have the DVD of that also. It's a pretty good film, and it's a pretty good book. Both actually are excellent, as opposed to things like Maze Runner and Hunger Games, where I'm going to say the books are better. Actually, with this one, probably the film is better, but honestly, they're both very good. And most people don't even realise it's a book. I believe this is something I said in the DVD video. I'm going to get this one out just so I can show you the front cover, because it's excellent. Fizzlebert Stump, technically the full title being Fizzlebert Stump, the Boy Who Ran Away from the Circus and Joined the Library, which sure is a book. It's one of those wacky ones, as you can tell from the title. And again, all of these books are ones that I've read a long time ago, and oh, trust me, when I was, 13 or 14, it was a great book. I read it a good few times, but I'm not going to be reading it anytime soon. I don't think. I've probably grown out of its humour by now. But hey, whatever, it's still a good book. We have here an Anthony Horowitz book, The Diamond Brothers, The Two of Diamonds. There's a lot of books of the Diamond Brothers, and I believe I have read them all. This is the only one that I own, and that's because the others I got all out the library. I don't know why I only own one of these. These were fantastic books. I did love them. One of my favourites, again, when I was a bit younger. Anthony Horowitz seems to be known for doing two very different types of books, those being books that are good for, I guess, young teens, and also horror. bit of a difference there. I've read a bit of both. Anthony Horowitz is pretty good, but he's pretty well known, so I guess I won't talk about him too much. But yeah, the Diamond Brothers are great, very funny books. They're about like murder mysteries, except they're actually comedies, so that's fun. And then in the shadow there, we have Barry Trotter and the Unnecessary Sequel. As you can tell, this is a Harry Potter parody, I guess, and it's actually got a bookmark in it, which is surprising. I didn't realise any of these books had bookmarks. Perhaps I never finished that one. I don't remember it too well, to be honest, but yeah, it's a parody of Harry Potter. That's all there is to it, really, and it exists. Next, we have the Gone series. That's all I can call it, really. That does seem to be what people do call it. The first book being called Gone. It's a supernatural series, I guess, and it's pretty well known. Basically, in a little town or whatever, all the adults disappear and all the kids get superpowers, so that's fun. As you can see, these are some pretty thick books, so quite long, and there is a good few in the series. That's 6 there, from Gone up to Light. Then you have Monster there, which is by the same creator, and I believe it's a prequel. I can't remember too well, but I'm pretty sure it's a prequel. Unfortunately, this is one that you can see I tried desperately to buy all of one edition and failed miserably, because I've got 3 from one edition and 3 from a completely different edition. Oopsies on that one. But yeah, Gone, Hunger and Fear, all from the same edition, and then Lies, Plague and Light from a different one. Yeah, they're a bit gory, I guess. It's a bit much. That's how I'll put it. It's just a bit much. But they are good books, so I would recommend taking a look if you don't mind things like that. I've not really given it a good description, but I'm not exactly a literary critic. We have A Tale of Redwall. These ones are quite well known, as far as I know. Probably, again, better well known with perhaps the generation above me, but they are pretty well known, and I'm not sure which 3 books I have. There is an insane number of Redwall books. For most of the books on these shelves, I have all of them, or at least approaching all of them. Redwall, it's not even close. I don't know which books I had. I figured it out at one point because I talked to someone in Discord that knew Redwall, and we talked about the books. And I discovered which 3 I had. It is not book 1, 2, and 3, I'm pretty sure. But I do have 3 books. Maybe it is book 1, 2, and 3. Maybe I got lucky. But anyway, if you are interested, what I have is Martin the Warrior, Mossflower, and Outcast of Redwall. I don't know which 3 books those are, but the advantage of the Redwall books is because there's so many of them, you really can kind of read them in any order. They are mostly, as long as you get the general background lore, they're pretty self-contained stories. As for what they're about, I would compare it to Narnia. Narnia is books that I've not got on these shelves here, but I have certainly read all of Narnia, and Redwall is kind of similar. Next we have Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I used to collect all of these as they were released, but eventually I stopped collecting them and they continued to be released. So this is definitely not all of the Diary of a Wimpy Kids. They are in order though. So I do have, this is 8 books. So I guess I have book 1 up to 8. So that's kind of cool. But yes, there's definitely more than 8 Diary of a Wimpy Kids now. And I don't think I have to explain about these. This is definitely one of those books that everyone knows. Again, it's been turned into a film. Not that it was good. And not that I've seen it, actually. I say that. I don't think I've seen it. I'm not going to change that anytime soon. But yes, Diary of a Wimpy Kid books are pretty nice. As you can tell, I kind of like the funny books. Next, we've got some more supernatural books. I just said I like the funny books, but I also like the supernatural ones. So we have The Medusa Project by Sophie Mackenzie here. These are all the books from the setup up to Hit Squad, 6 of them. I'm pretty sure that's all of them anyway. And yeah, they're very good books. They're about some kids who get some superpowers. As opposed to the Gone series, where all the kids get superpowers, this is just a select few kids get superpowers, and then they go and do cool things. So that's cool. If you're into stuff like that, would recommend reading those. Then we have the, I don't know what to call it really. It's the Days series, starting with Mr. Monday, Grim Tuesday, Drowned Wednesday, Sir Thursday, Lady Friday, Superior Saturday, and Lord Sunday. Pretty good series of books right there. Basically about this kid who suddenly has thrust upon him the responsibility of the entire universe or something, and has to go and defeat these 7 characters with names appropriate by the books, and on each character that he defeats. He unlocks some kind of gear that he will then use to go and fight the others, slowly accumulating a force of his own as the books go forwards, and connections throughout the magical Matrix universe, whatever it is. It's kind of wacky, but it's very interesting. I do like those book series. I have read them a couple of times. You may notice, you probably haven't noticed, but the Mr. Monday copy that I have there is in significantly worse condition than the others. I patted myself on the back earlier for keeping my books in good condition, and I will point out I got the Mr. Monday in that condition. I believe I got it for free, it was pre-owned, and it's not in great condition. If I just bring it out here, you can tell it looks fine. In comparison with what some books can look like, it really does look fine. But the spine is a little bent, and the cover is a little bashed up. It's not in the condition that I like to keep books in, but whatever, it's fine. You can still read it, no problems. I'm just having a rant. Then we have a couple of Harry Potter extras. You may notice that I've not got Harry Potter here because I don't own them. To be fair, these are not ones that I got out of the library, unlike everything else that we've talked about so far. These are just ones that my family owns as opposed to me. And unlike the DVDs, I'm not going through my entire family's book collection. However, I do have a couple of Harry Potter extras here. So we have The Tales of Beedle the Bard. If you know much about Harry Potter, you'll know that this is the book in number 7 that was given to Harry by, I believe it was Luna's father, something like that. So we have it here, and this is the one that Ron goes on about knowing very well, and how does Harry and Hermione not know about Tales of Beedle the Bard? Because obviously everyone reads them, except Harry and Hermione were not brought up in wizarding households. Anyway, Harry Potter lore. I just open up the contents page for you there. Hopefully you can read it. I can't actually tell right now. But we have The Wizard and the Hopping Pot, which I believe Ron mentioned in his little rant. We have The Fountain of Fair Fortune, The Warlock's Hairy Heart, Babbity Rabbity and Her Cackling Stump, which Ron also mentioned, and The Tale of Three Brothers, which is of course the important one that then sent Harry, Hermione and Ron on their mission to get the Elder Wand, the Invisibility Cloak, and the Stone of Resurrection. So there you go, that's that one. But yeah, 5 little stories there. It's just a short book, but fun Harry Potter lore. Another one there is Quidditch Through the Ages, which is just one of those books that was mentioned in the books. I believe this one used for learning about Quidditch, which makes a lot of sense, and it tells you how Quidditch works. So there you go. Of course, there are people in real life that play Quidditch, just without the magic, which is hilarious, and I'll leave you to look up about that if you don't know about it already. And then we have Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them by Newt Scamander. Of course, this is again a book that was mentioned in the books used for the teaching, and this one went and got a couple of films of its own. Of course, the films are about Newt Scamander himself and what he did with his life, whereas this book here is just simply Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It really is just an A to Z of Fantastic Beasts. So here we have the first page, A, with the Acromantula. You may notice that there's a bunch of pages before that because this is not the first page, and that's things like foreword and stuff like that, more Harry Potter lore. If you actually flip to the first page, you will see that this is supposedly Harry Potter's copy of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, where it says, shared by Ron Weasley because his fell apart, and some other fun text there that I won't read all of it out, but you can pause if you want to read it, and if it's possible to read it on the camera. Anyway, bit of fun for you there. Of course, everyone knows about Harry Potter, but not many people seem to know about those 3 books. And there may be others, to be fair, I wouldn't be hugely surprised, but those are the 3 that I have, and it's kind of cool that they exist. I was a big fan of Harry Potter when I was a fair bit younger, although to be fair, still a bit of a Harry Potter fan. Would be pretty happy to read those books at some point, if of course I still read books, but like we discussed that already. The Shapeshifter series, these are probably my favourite books. Now, I mentioned before that Jennings is probably my favourite in terms of humour, and there are a couple of things that I just really like, a couple of books that I really like rather, but probably Shapeshifter is my favourite. I've read the first Shapeshifter book a huge number of times. Admittedly, the rest a little less, because I tend to read the first book, maybe the second one, and then and then forget about it. Oops. But I have read all of them through plenty of times. They're great books. Another supernatural book where a bunch of kids in the book get superpowers and then go do superpower things. The main character, funnily enough, is a shapeshifter, and he starts off being able to turn into a fox. And then each book he unlocks a new animal to turn into. I guess I won't spoil which animals those are. Not that I expect you to go and read the books, but hey, now you've got a bit of an incentive. You have to read them to find out what animals he turns into. Fun! Then we also have at the end there Frozen in Time, which is by the same author. Now, I don't think it's actually related to Shapeshifter at all, but it is in the same universe, maybe? Not really sure on the lore on that one. But Frozen in Time is just about a couple of people, I think maybe just even one person, that was, funnily enough, frozen in time. Cryogenic freezing is basically the plot of that one. So that's fun, and it's a pretty nice book. Do enjoy that. Next we have my other parody book, which is Star Wars. You can guess what that's parodying as well. May the Farce be with you, the original parody digitally remastered in Page-O-Vision, because of course it's a book. Then we have a guide to Tolkien, which I've no idea, honestly. I don't know what that is. Just straight up, I don't have a clue. And then we have an actual Tolkien book, The Hobbit. Now, when we were going over films, I mentioned that I read The Hobbit in a bit of a big rush, and that is true. This is the copy that I read. I read it in a bit of a big rush. I don't believe I gave you context for that in the DVD video. I guess I might as well here. Basically, it was when the final Hobbit film was coming out, my friends decided that we would go see it at the cinema, and I was the only person that had not seen the other films. So, as opposed to going and watching the other films quickly, I decided what would be smart would be to read the entire book. So that's what I did, and I read the entire book. It took me a couple of days to get through it all, and this of course was when I was around 14 or 15, so I had school to be doing as well, but I did read it all, and then we went off to the cinema to see the third film, and I didn't really, not even the third film, isn't it the fourth one? I can't remember, something like that. Anyway, we went to see it, and I didn't get much of it because I read the book a little too fast, and I don't really know what happened. But hey, there you go. That's the copy of The Hobbit. And that's pretty much all there is to talk about. Of course, there is more stuff on the shelf, but the rest of that shelf is mostly just random stuff. You can see there great science fiction stories, which I've never read, and I don't know what's in there. We then have an Ace spelling dictionary, because I can't spell, and a Bible. There's quite a few Bibles in this shelf. I mentioned before about the Christian family and all, but yes, I have quite a few of those. And then on the shelf below, I mostly just have work stuff, to be honest. Folders of work that I did at school and things like that, so that's nothing interesting to go on about. The only things worth noting from this point onwards would be my single Terry Pratchett book, which is just over on the side of the shelf because it's so large. I have The Last Hero, a Discworld fable. So if you know what that is, there you go. I have that one. I did read it before, but I can't really remember, and it's also the only Terry Pratchett book and the only Discworld book that I have read, so plot was kind of lost on me. I was also too young at the time, but hey, there you go, I have that. I also have a bunch of Where's Wally? Well, Waldo does not exist, in case you were wondering. That's a lie, but Where's Wally, I do have those. I've got 7, I believe, Where's Wally books, so that's fun. And then I also have a giant book about space, and when I say giant, I mean giant. Like, it's hardback, it is about as thick as one of these, but it is also, what is that, A2? I think it's A2. It's an A2 book. It's something like that. It is huge. Mostly it has pictures of space and stuff in it, so that's cool. But anyway, those books are hidden among the folders and the other stuff, so we'll leave this one here. I will again apologise for the lighting. I see that it has got a little bit worse as time has gone on, so sorry about that. Maybe I should have set up my light, but also I wanted to have the camera on the stand, so screw you guys. Like I said, a lot of my books have also been nicked by family members, so that's fun. And then most of the books that I read came out the library anyway, so libraries are great. Would recommend. Go and check out a library if you have one. But anyway, hey, did you know you can get DVDs out of libraries? That's fun. You can also get audiobooks out of libraries. Hey, that is pretty epic, all things considered. But yes, I'll shut up now, because this has been, as expected, way too long. So, there you go. Bye!